Great. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. I want to welcome our speaker. Dr. Satinder Dhiman is actually the Associate Dean and the Chair. He's also the Director of the MBA program at Woodbury University, which is located in Southern California. Dr. Dhiman was actually on my dissertation committee, so I have a very fond memory of him guiding me in my own research and my own spiritual journey. But he's published over 15 books in management and workplace spirituality, and he is going to share from one of his books called the Bhagavad Gītā and Leadership. And so, Dr. Dhiman, I'm going to go ahead and highlight you so that you will be pinned. And you can take it from here. And at the end, we can open it up for questions if there's time. Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Dhiman. You can, hope you're on mute.
Muted, okay.
There you are, good to see you.
Same here, same here. Good morning, everyone. Good noon, depending upon, or good evening, wherever somebody's joining, since we are in the Zoom environment, so I don't know what the time zones are. We generally like to begin topics like that with the traditional prayer, if you will allow me. It is in Sanskrit. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kans Chanur Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum Shruti Smriti Purana Nam Alyam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Pada Shankaram Log Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Vadarayanam Sutra Bhashkrito Vande Bhagavanto Puna Puna Om Sahna Vavatu Sahna Vunaktu Sah Viryam Karvavahehi Tejasvi Navdhitamastu Mavit Vishabhehi Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namah Hari Om. So the meaning of this prayer is to pray for the peace, threefold peace. One, peace from natural disasters, and we have been dealing with some natural or some human created. So we pray for peace from natural disasters. The second is the peace from our surroundings, that we are all dealing with, and also thirdly, the peace from within. If there are if there is any stress that we have, if there are some unresolved, there is some anger or hatred that sometime we harbor. So we are seeking peace from the internal turmoil also. So the external turmoil and the internal turmoil and the turmoil caused by natural events. So that's the threefold peace. This is essentially a peace prayer. Now, can I share my screen? Do I have okay. Okay. Can you see my screen? All of you?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, let's see. Okay, so this is it. This is the book which represented culmination of my 30 years of work in the area of spirituality in the workplace. Now, as Carrie knows, these days it has become a fashion to use this phrase like workplace spirituality. I remember teaching a class in this area in the MBA program back in 1997. So you can see how old my association or how young my association has been with this field. And this book, which was published in 2019, was a culmination of my lifetime work in this particular field. As we unfold this scripture or this philosophical text, I would like to call it a philosophical text. It has it deals with a problem of life, which is
in jobs. We get no discussion of the actual history of the.
Okay, so I think there was some problem with the audio. Is everyone can hear me?
Yes, yeah, we can hear you. Someone was
Okay.
joining on through an iPhone, but they're muted now. Sorry about that.
No problem. No problem. So when I said, I was saying that this book deals with a universal problem or universal problems. It's, if I may use that word, it is perhaps the most Catholic of all scriptures in the world, meaning even if we disassociate this book from Indian context, it will still have meaning because it deals with the problem of human sorrow. Like Buddha dealt with the problem of human sorrow, that there is a sorrow and there is a reason for the sorrow and there is a cure for the sorrow and there is a path to cure for the sorrow. That is Buddha's fourfold path. Similarly, this particular book talks about universal issues, universal challenges. But a little bit background before we land into this particular scripture or philosophical text. We all seek three type of things. You know, you can do a survey, you can ask people, you know, if there are more than 7 or 8 billion people, they will have 7 or 8 billion answers that what they are looking for. But if you kind of distill them into certain fundamental factors, those will be everybody seeks wealth and security. Agreed? If somebody doesn't seek wealth and security, please raise your hand. That will be the topic for next book, you know, that there are people who don't seek wealth and security. We all seek wealth and security in some form or the other. Maslow was right, you know, he said that we all start with the physiological and security needs. Then, you know, we also all seek happiness and peace. You know, I cannot imagine anybody who wakes up in the morning and says, today, I will try to be as unhappy as I can. That is not imaginable state of affair for humans. We all seek kind of freedom from sorrow. We all seek freedom from trouble, worry, stress, and you name it. So seeking happiness and peace, there is a beautiful word in Sanskrit called ananda. Shanti is also a word. I use that word in the mantras, which I recited, Vedic mantras this morning. So the word ananda or peace is actually not happiness, because happiness has an opposite, unhappiness. Peace has no opposite. Ananda has no opposite. So it's an interesting state. We'll have something to talk about that as the presentation unfolds. At any time, if you have any questions, please make a note, either share it in the chat, maybe Carrie can let me know towards the end, and we can take some questions depending upon the time. But above all, although we may be seeking wealth, why do we seek wealth? We seek wealth so that we can be free from certain constraints, certain challenges that, you know, so that we can buy this, we can buy that. So we actually want freedom from limitations. So Indian philosophy puts the ultimate goal of life, the fundamental part of human seeking, as we all seek freedom. In Christianity, the closest will be salvation. But here, the freedom is, in Indian philosophy, interestingly, the problem is not sin, if I may use that word. The problem is not some moral inaptitude. It is not that problem. The problem is ignorance, metaphysical ignorance. Indian philosophy postulates that we all suffer in life because somehow we are not clear about the way things are. So that's why, you know, we suffer in life. That's the human sort of constraint that we have. Just give me 1 minute. I had the background Veena music, so I had to mute the little bit music in the background. So we all seek freedom. It's freedom from limitations, all kind of limitations. I do not want to be, even if you have a bird, which is in a cage, the bird wants to be free. You remember Maya Angelou's work, I know why a caged bird sings, So the bird wants to be free. The bird has a song and wants to be free. I want to share with you a story here. We like to present things in a story from bird. There was a bird which was in a cage and wanted to be free. Talked to his owner. He said, can you let me go? He said, no, you have been with me. I like you, we are friends. But the bird kept on asking for freedom, and the friend, his owner, or the human companion of the bird, I should say, not owner, said that, well, we need to talk. He said, well, I have a deal for you. I can tell you 3 things, the bird said, which will make you free, which will make you good for everything in life. The man didn't believe it. He said, okay, but how do I trust you that you will have 3 things for me if I free you? He said, we will do it like this. Here's a deal. I will tell you 1 thing while I'm in the cage. And then if you like it, then you free me. I will tell you 2 more things. That's the deal. The man said, that seems like a good deal. If I can know 3 things which will make me good for, good for anything in life, I need to know that. I mean, maybe Stoics had the formula, but, I don't know, but this bird has it. So this man said, okay, I agree. So what is the first thing? The bird said, well, the first thing is never, ever regret in life. You see, our whole life is full of regrets. I wish I had invested or not invested in Bitcoin. I wish I had bought that piece of land near Malibu, 20 years ago. Today, that would have been like, $5 million. Our whole life consists of, I wish I had done that. I wish I had done that. Ifs and buts. So the bird's first advice was, do not ever regret. Don't regret in life. The man thought that, this is very cool. This bird is really very wise. I'm curious to know the other 2 things. So he said, okay, I will free you. He opened the cage. The bird flew and sat on the tree nearby. And he said, the second thing I want you to know is that never, ever trust anything in life unless it meets the test of your logic and reasoning. Unless you can prove it through your logic and reasoning, unless it passes your test of common sense, unless you can prove it in your own experience, do not believe in anything. The man thought, oh my God, this bird is really very wise. Which university did he go to? Where did he do his PhD? How does he know all this good stuff about life? And then the man became curious. He said, so what's the 3rd thing that you want to tell me, which will make me free in life? He said, before I tell you 3rd thing, I want to tell you something else about myself. I lived with you for 6 years. You never really paid attention to me. Did you notice that? The bird is now talking to the man, his earlier, owner or companion. He said that, did you notice that my stomach was a little bit more protruding? It was a little bit swollen. He said, yeah. He said, you did not know that in my stomach, there was a very precious diamond. And if you had taken me to a doctor or pet specialist or whatever, they would have done some ultrasound and they would have taken that thing out and you would have become the richest man in the world. The man said, oh my God, what did I do? How silly I was. Okay, I'm so sorry to hear that, but tell me the 3rd thing. Now the bird really became philosophical. He said, I am not going to tell you 3rd thing because you have failed the test. You did not learn anything from my first 2 things. He said, what do you mean? He said, I told you, first thing is never regret. And you were just regretting that I wish I had taken you to the doctor and, had that stone taken out and become rich. I just told you don't regret, and you were just doing that right in front of me. And the second thing, I told you, never ever trust anything which does not meet the test of common sense. Do you think that there could be a diamond in my stomach? This is silly, So the bird said, you failed the test, my dear. You're not a worthy student. I am not going to tell you third secret. And he flew away. Now, I happened to meet with the bird, and I asked him, so what was the third thing, if you can tell me, so that I can share with my group today. So the bird said the third thing was, I would have told him if he had been a good student. The third thing was, no matter what is happening in your life, always remember, it can be worse. So don't ask why me. Just say, where do I go from here? Pick up the pieces and move on. Now, if you remember these three things, if we remember these three things, one, no regrets, because we did what was possible at the time. 20 years ago, if I had money, I would have invested. I did not invest it because at that time, that was not something I could have done. Why regret over things? Second, not to believe anything which does not pass the sniff test or the test of common sense, or which you cannot prove through your reasoning and or inexperience. And third, no matter how tough it gets, it can always be tougher than that. So always be grateful, have the attitude of gratitude. Anyway, so stories don't fail me, time does. Let's move on. The most translated book, text after Bible. Robert Minor, a great exegetical research scholar from US, says that I wanted to have a little sprinkling of scholars from the world, so that you don't think that I'm trying to sell something from my own country. Aldous Huxley, probably the most well-read man of last century. The author of The Brave New World. He was right here in Hollywood. He lived in an apartment in Hollywood, and once his apartment got burnt, there was a fire in the building, and he had some very rare manuscripts and artwork which got burnt. And the next day, the press reporters came and said, "Mr. Huxley, how do you feel?" He said, "I feel light." That was Huxley. Only Huxley, Aldous Huxley, can say something like that. When he was on his deathbed, he was surrounded by students and his wife, Laura Huxley. One student asked Huxley, "So, Mr. Huxley, you have been the student of life for last 55 years or 60 years. What is the advice? What are the final words, parting shots?" Mr. Huxley said, "After having been a student of human nature for 60 years, I am almost embarrassed to say that the only advice I have for my fellow beings is just be a little bit more kind to each other." That was the only advice one of the most well-read men in the history had given last century to. Gandhi says that Huxley says that Bhagavad Gītā is the most systematic statement of perennial philosophy. He actually wrote a book called Perennial Philosophy, Huxley, which was published in 1946 by the Harper and Row. Gandhi says that it is my spiritual reference book. It's my spiritual dictionary. And he said whenever he confronted any problem, this book really saved the day. It has 700 verses. It is embedded within the great epic called Mahābhārata. Mahābhārata has been called by no less person than A.R. Orage. Orage was the editor of a magazine, avant-garde magazine, in the first part of last century, which featured people like W.B. Yeats, Ezra Pound, Bernard Shaw, Annie Besant. People like those were featured in that. And Bernard Shaw called A.R. Orage the most brilliant English critic of last 100 years. He says that Mahābhārata has epic this epic has some universal truths which are not found anywhere else. In India, there is a saying that if it is anywhere in the world, it is probably in the Mahābhārata. And what is not in Mahābhārata, it is nowhere else. You will find that. All the characters you can think about, psychological, spiritual, material, they are all there. It's a 100,000 verses long book, Mahābhārata. Maha mean great, Bharata mean Indian, epic meaning epic. The battle was all set, and when the battle was all set, the main archer of the scene became doubtful, and there is a conversation between the warrior Prince Arjuna and the God in human form. We call it Shri Krishna. The opening prayer was to Shri Krishna, the way I opened the meeting today. The battle lasted for 18 days. The book has 18 chapters. The first word of Gita is dharma. Dharm kshetre kurukshetre. So the last word of Gita is mama. Mama meaning my. Dharma meaning duty. So the first word is duty. Last word is my. If you combine that, it becomes my duty. So the whole Gita takes place within the domain of what is my duty? What should I do here? How can I fulfill human purpose of life? I feel that whenever there are some events like tsunami, and then there is pandemic, and then there is, hurricanes and floods and earthquakes and all that, God becomes sad, no question about it. But the only time God cries, weeps, is when somebody leaves the planet without fulfilling their purpose. God really becomes it moves God, because God thinks that, I gave this person the opportunity. He or she did not really utilize it to the full extent. So what Maslow postulates, that the purpose of life is to realize our total potential. I think that is what one should be asking. Am I living my life in which am I realizing my true potential? Am I using my gifts for the good of the society? Those are the questions that Gita confronts us day in, day out. At the end of the day, you ask the question, how did I do? What value did I add? Did I earn some good karma today? Did I lessen some suffering in the world today? Because if our life does not include what I call the beautiful, the good, the true, then probably we have missed the boat. So what is the greatest leadership dilemma? What is the right thing to do? What should I do? What should I do to be or not to be? As Shakespeare, the Bard of Avon, said many 100 years ago, that is the question. The conflict is always between what is good and what is pleasant. Bhagavad Gītā distills, Indian philosophy distills the fundamental question of human life. The fundamental, at every step, there is a war between what is good, what is pleasant. I feel like going to that party, but I have that APA paper to write. No? So the student is always in conflict. Should I do this? Should I do that? To be or not to be? The question is not to be or not to be. The question is to be. Just be, that is the question. Because we don't have a choice. Shakespeare was wrong in this case, in a way. The choice, we don't have a choice to be or not to be. The question is how to be. There is no choice. We are born. Life is confronting us. You have to make decisions. The question is how. How do you choose between good and pleasant? This is the problem which Immanuel Kant confronted. The man who probably, after Aristotle and Plato, the most robust thinker of the Western world, in all those 1600 years after Aristotle put down his pen, almost 17 or 1800 years, was Immanuel Kant. Immanuel Kant's basic question is my duty ethics. What should I do? We are still struggling with that question, but Immanuel Kant was the one who really confronted us with that wonderful thing. We all know, although the survey is old, even now, I was looking at last night at the recent survey 2022, the numbers have not changed much. Thanks to pandemic, we face that problem even manifold. There is a mass exodus. People are leaving organizations. Companies are discovering, why do we need so big buildings, because for last 2 years, we have been doing business without being physically present. So there are things that have come to our notice these days. So as we go from Zoom back to room, we are facing some interesting challenging from Zoom to room, but now still we are in Zoom, so I don't have to worry about those problems. Gita teaches us that we need to transition from a state of apathy. Marcus Aurelius, in his book Meditation, says, when we wake up in the morning, we have two options. Either we can say, okay, we're going to pull the bed sheet over our head and say, I'm going to sleep. Or we can just get up and get on with life, because the purpose of life, I was not born to just sleep. I need to do some work. So Gita teaches how to move from a state of apathy. You see, there are variations. If you notice, the whole art of living is art of noticing. You see, there is a state called antipathy. When you don't like something, that's antipathy. Then you make a little bit more progress, you move to apathy. Then you make a little bit more progress, you move to sympathy. Then you make a little bit more progress, you then move to empathy. Then you make a little bit more progress, you move to compassion. Then you make ultimate progress, you move to deep compassion. Buddha had deep compassion. All our prophets and religious saints and leaders and sages had deep compassion. So you can see the range from antipathy, apathy, sympathy, empathy to about Nietzsche, the great German thinker. Somebody says Nietzsche did not write about his problems, he suffered his problem. That is the height of empathy that a writer can present in the book. So this is the book which talks about how to be engaged. One of the fascinating thing about, when we talk about leadership is, do we focus on action or do we focus on results? Now, let me change it a little bit more towards the leadership and management context. Are we process-oriented or outcome-oriented? You see, if we are outcome-oriented, outcome is never in our hand. You can be, I do not know any Olympic sports person can say, I'm going to win for sure gold medal. It all depends upon his or her health on that day, what other competitors are, how prepared they are. It's just that, nobody knows if he's going to start this business, he or she is going to make money. The results are not in our hand. It is a fact of life. You cannot tell me anything that, oh, I'm going to do this and always this result is going to follow. What is in our hand is our actions. So if you focus on process and not the outcome, the process taken care of will take care of the outcome. However, the one advantage will be, if the outcome does not go the way you expected, you will not become too stressful or too sorrowful. And the whole thing is, I like that Stoic philosopher Epictetus, who says, always do things with a reserve class. There should be a reserve class, meaning God willing, fate permitting, destiny desiring, this will be done. God willing, this will happen that day. But because you never know what can go wrong. So the idea is, do the right thing, right results will follow. I remember Krishnamurti, who spent most of his life 70 miles from where I am in Ojai, on the way to Santa Barbara. He used to say, when you do the right thing, right things happen to you. With that simple sentence, he has captured the entire wisdom of life. When you do the right thing, right things happen to you. That's the way universe works. Call it law of attraction, call it what you may, but that's the way it is. So now what do you do? I mean, what do you do when the results don't follow the way you want? Develop equanimity. Develop equanimity. Marcus Aurelius in his book, Meditation, says, if you want tranquility, don't we all want that? If you want tranquility, do less. Don't do too much, do less. Very simple. So Bhagavad Gītā says, if you want tranquility, develop equanimity, meaning be same in the positive as well as negative outcome. Why? Because both positive and negative are temporary. So don't get too elated when you're successful, and don't get too depressed when you're dejected, because both are temporary. Marcus Aurelius again comes to my mind when he says, what a thinker, oh my God. He says, soon you would have forgotten everything. Soon everyone would have forgotten you. So Zen says, develop a mind, big mind, don't know mind, no big deal mind. So I invite all of you to develop a no big deal mind. Something happens, you say, no big deal, and move on. That's called no big deal mind. So how do you do and the action then? You understand that the actions are not done by me as such. There is nobody home. There's nobody home. There's no ego to take charge or delivery of. The actions are performed by the combination of three properties that we have. We all have three properties. We have the property of purity, we have the property of action, and we have the property of what we call freedom from inertia. So we call it the sattvic, rajas, and tamas. There are three qualities in three things in us, all of us. We have the desire to know, the knowledge. That's the purity, sattva, truth element in us. We all want to do something. That is the rajasa, that is the rajas quality in us. And then there is some, sloth, laziness. We want to take it easy. We want to procrastinate. That is also a part of our thing. The procrastination is called the art of not now. So we are all very good at that art of not now. I don't want to do it now. So it's a combination of that. So all actions are performed by a combination of, some people have maybe 80% one type of quality, sattva, and 10% the action, and the 10% a little bit sloth and kind of taking it easy. Some people have different combinations. So depending upon what our past karma was, we are casted into a certain thing. But there is a battle between past destiny and what you present action, and whichever is strong wins. That's the theory. Indian karma theory does not make us fatalists. It says at every second, and every second of our moment, there's a constant fight between your destiny and your present action, and whoever is stronger will win. So if your present action is stronger than your destiny, your present action will win. So it's not fatalism, it is taking charge of what our actions are. And the beauty is, you do your work as an offering to the divine. Everything you do becomes an offering. What a beautiful, Rumi comes to my mind. He says there are 1,000 ways to kneel and kiss the ground. Yes, there are 1,000 ways to offer yourself. What is our life? Our life is an offering to the universe. Our life, we all have some gifts. We develop our gifts through education. Some people go this way, some people go that way in education. But what's the ultimate purpose? The purpose is to offer our life for the good of others, good of the society, community, world at large. So make our life, Bhagavad Gītā says, make your life as an offering. What a beautiful frame of mind, that your life becomes an offering, There's no higher calling than your whole life is an offering, Somebody went to Lao Tzu and he was talking, and Lao Tzu said, yes, yes, yes. He said, oh, Mr. Lao Tzu, how come you agreed to everything? He said, I didn't agree to you. My whole style is that I agree. I agree with everything. I have said yes to the universe. So when you have said yes to the universe, your life becomes a blessing for you and for others. Now, in one chapter, Bhagavad Gītā talks about certain qualities. I thought that those qualities, if we have, we will have an empowered workplace. What are those qualities? Fearlessness. Now, fearlessness does not mean you start punching people in the streets, because you are fearless. No, if you are a high jumper, let's say that you are an Olympic gold medalist, you got a gold medal in high jumping. That doesn't mean that anything high you see, you start jumping. That doesn't mean that. I mean, you go to market and you start jumping over things. The idea is fearlessness, meaning internally, that no matter what route I take, I'm going home. There is a sense of anchor. You're anchored within. And because of that, because our whole life is full of fear. We have fear of losing this, we have fear of losing that, we have fear of this may not happen. So if you understand that what am I seeking, it is what I am. I am what I'm seeking. The seeker is the sought. Then what is the fear? Fear is always from the other. As Albert Camus said, the other is the hell. So if there are no others, if you have really understood, love thy neighbor, if you have really understood the beauty of what Christ said, love thy neighbor as thyself. If you have understood that who is your neighbor? Everybody is your neighbor. So when the question was asked, am I my brother's keeper? The answer is, of course, you are your brothers and sisters' keeper. So if you understand that, there's nothing to fear. There is only a joy. Your life becomes a blessing. You convert burdens into blessings. That's called fearlessness. Purity of mind. Oh my God, if our mind is pure, whatever it touches, it becomes pure. Because as Nelson Mandela said, by trusting people more, you make them more trustworthy. By trusting people less, you make them less trustworthy. That is the beauty of purity of mind. Non-violence, taking a pledge starting today that I am going to tread lightly on the planet. I am not going to cause any harm to any living being. In thought, word, and deed, I am going to be as harmless as possible. Just that one principle. If you ask me, there was a book I was given the opportunity to write many years ago called 7 Habits of Highly Fulfilled People. In that, I talk about one habit called non-violence. And if somebody asked me, actually, I was asked that question, so what is your favorite habit? So I said, non-violence. Non-violence meaning harmlessness, taking a vow that I want to, imagine if people become harmless in word, harmless in deed, harmless in thought, just thinking about good of others, not thinking about that other people should suffer or other people should be like this or that. That's all we need. What a beauty. Then you will understand the real beauty of Christ saying the kingdom has already arrived. People were asking Christ, so when will the kingdom of heaven come? He said, it has already arrived here. You need eyes to see. So non-violence is the goal. And Gandhi's whole life, Mahatma Gandhi's whole life was centered around this simple principle of causing no harm. If we take a vow that from me, not even an ant should feel fear, not a small fly should feel, no bird, no animal should feel fear from me. So I live with the philosophy of live and let live. The whole life is changed. There is no other argument for vegetarianism or becoming a vegan. No other argument. It is compassion. There's a science to it. It is sustainable. That's a different story. Logic is different, but we don't live our life logically. The argument is compassion. Nobody wants to get hurt. I don't want to get hurt. You don't want to get hurt. So we shouldn't hurt anybody. Truthfulness. Oh my God. Truthfulness. I mean, if we can, what's the truth? Christ didn't answer the question. What's the truth? The Pilate asked him. So truthfulness, freedom from anger and malice. Oh my God. When I read Lincoln's on the tombstone, it said, with charity towards all, with malice toward none. I said, wow. I mean, you have to have the mind of a Buddha to come to that realization. If that was Lincoln's realization, I salute the man. With malice towards none, with charity towards all. What more can you desire in ethics? If somebody can have that in life, that you have no malice towards anyone and you are charitable towards everyone, you have really reached the pinnacle of ethics and glory. Compassion. We already talked about compassion. Compassion, compassion means a silent prayer that everyone may be free from suffering. That is compassion. When somebody asked Dalai Lama, he said that is compassion. Compassion is a prayer. May all beings be free from suffering. May everyone be happy. That is compassion. Fortitude. This is the Stoics talk about fortitude a lot. And absence of pride. Absence of pride. Self-effacing. This is, we talk about humility. Jim Collins, in his book, Good to Great, talks about two qualities of level 5 leaders. One is, he used the word compelling humility. I was surprised. Compelling modesty, compelling humility, and fierce professional will. If you can combine humility with fierce professional will, according to Jim Collins, you have really made it in the arena of leadership. Moving on, I'm almost done. So these are the disempowering, Bhagavad Gītā says, these are the disempowering things in the workplace. Hypocrisy, trying to be more than what one is. Greed is killing everybody, Arrogance, again, a part of being self-centered, self-conceit. Anger, harshness, stubbornness. There are many other qualities, but I thought that if we can be made aware of these qualities, that those are empowering, and the ones which are disempowering, I think workplace will be mastering the mind. Bhagavad Gītā lays a lot of importance. It says the mind is your greatest friend, mind is your greatest enemy. An unruly mind is our greatest enemy. A stable, equanimous mind is our greatest friend. And what are the 3 mental traps? Desire, excessive desire. Always looking for Amazon Prime, always looking for, oh, I need to buy this, I need to do this, the holidays are coming, shopping. The desires have no end. The beauty is fulfilling a desire is like putting fuel on the fire. It does not quench the fire. When we have something, we want to have more. This is called moreism. One of the interesting conditions of present time is called moreism. Moreism meaning to have more of what I already have more of, and to have more of. It's called moreism. And I think desire actually ends into moreism. We all know that. Anybody who reads Leo Tolstoy's memoirs will know that the path to salvation or happiness is not desire, because nobody's desires get fulfilled. History shows us. So if your path to happiness is desire, fulfilling more desires, of course, it will result in frustration ultimately. And besides, how much one can desire. I was reading a nameplate, license plate. When you get in traffic, what do? You read license plates, and it said, why you want everything? Where will you keep it? That is the question. Why you want everything? Where will you keep it? Anger is something. I remember the story from Gurdjieff. Gurdjieff was, his mother was Armenian, his father was Greek, a great Russian philosopher. His father on his deathbed called him and said, I'm going to give you advice which will change your life. The advice was, whenever you feel angry, tell the other person, I will talk to you 24 hours later. Don't answer it right away. And he said that, Gurdjieff writes later on, that simple advice changed my life. So whenever I felt angry, I did not, they say that, don't promise anything when you are happy. That's what we do. And don't decide anything when you're angry. If we can just remember those simple rules, do's and don'ts. Because when we are happy, we try to overpromise, I will do this, I will do that. And when we're angry, we decide things and then we regret later on. Leaders are brand ambassadors for an organization. So they should act responsibly, because their actions do speak louder than their words. You see, if I'm a lousy employee, the loss is one to the organization. But if I'm an inept leader, then the loss is mucho. Lot of loss, because I'm messing up the lives of so many people. I personally think, now this is my conspiracy theory, you don't have to believe in it. My theory is that if you put all the misery humanity faces, putting earthquakes, pandemics, hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, earthquakes together, the misery caused by all these events, if you put them together, is less compared to the misery caused by inept leaders. Look around in the international arena, the loss, misery caused by inept leaders. That's why Plato staked his whole life on writing that book, The Republic, in which he says you need 50 years of preparation, education to become a leader. And then we can see how many people meet the test, rigorous tests of. The reason we are having problems in the leadership is because we have not taken that book seriously, Plato's Republic. So leaders have to act responsibly. There are some other things that Bhagavad Gītā can, talks about, which are important, that leaders act as an example. They act for the unification of the world at large. See the beauty, the universalness of the book. They act for the welfare of all beings. Sarvabhuta Hitarata, in Sanskrit, it's called Sarvabhuta Hitarata. And they act for the purification of the self. When your actions are offered as an offering, by that very act, your mind is purified. And when your mind is purified, you can imbibe subtle truths of life. Touchstone, well-being of all beings, because we live in the network of mutual interdependencies. This is what modern science has come to. So when we move from I to we help move the society from I illness to we wellness. Finally, the purpose of having, what is that we want? We want happy individuals. We want harmonious society. What a goal. Atmano Gyanartham Jagat Hitai Cha, for the knowledge of the self, for the well-being of all beings. There is no higher ideal for leadership that can be conceived. May all living beings be free and happy. Questions and answers. I will stop sharing.
Love it.
So that was my deal.
That was so much. I took so many great tweetable moments. There's so many wonderful things that you shared, and so great to be here. So I do want to open it up to questions. And as you are thinking about your question, there is a comment in the chat box that I'll share with you, Dr. Dhiman. Are you aware of, I think this is Zoroastrianism, that over 5,000 years ago, the Iranian prophet Zarathustra was called Zoroaster by Greek philosophers like Plato and Socrates, who taught many things like Krishna in the Gita. And Nietzsche also complimented. Yeah.
He wrote a book called Thus Spake Zarathustra, Nietzsche.
Yeah. Do you have any comments about that or thoughts on that?
Yes, you see, yes, of course, there is a book called Zen Avesta, in which the Zoroastrian teaching, it's a philosophy of living happily, living happy, even over death, they have a celebration, the Zoroastrians, so to speak. But the thing is, Bhagavad Gītā and the Upanishads, those are, scholarly opinion is that they predate all of that. Mahābhārata is about 10,000 years, they date it about 10,000. So there are similarities. You can also say there's a theory called all great people think alike. There are definitive areas in Plato which he borrowed from Indian philosophy, like in the book Republic, he talks about reincarnation through the myth of Ar. There's a very beautiful part of the 10th book of Republic where he talks about people, how they die and then they go whatever plus and minus places, and then they come back, then they get to choose the next life, those kind of things. Definitely during those days there was a kind of trade interaction. People used to interact in some marketplaces, and then those ideas were there. So yes, there will be similarities. We can find parallels. There are actually, if you study Stoicism, which predates Christianity, there is a distinct scholarly work out, prodigious literature out there, which says that some of the ideas that Stoics were talking about, they were adopted by Christianity. So there is always this happy, borrowing and inter-borrowing and intra-borrowing between faiths. Yes.
Okay, another question from Preeta says, what personal practice helped you to cultivate the states of mind needed to live in this way?
The only thing that really Gita helped us or helped me understand was that the same spirit that lives in me is the spirit that lives in you. So to harm you is to harm me, myself. And nobody can harm oneself. That means I should not harm you, because we are all interconnected in a way. I mean, everybody says we are all interconnected, but actually to know it, that how you are interconnected. I do an exercise in my class at the end. I will ask all students to hold hands, each other's, they will spread their arms like this, and then they hold each other's hand. So there are 20 students, we make a circle. And then I ask them, so whose hands are you holding? They will say, oh, on the left is Lisa, on the right is John. So I'm holding Lisa and John's hands. I said, think again, whose hands are you holding? Then they realize that we are holding everybody's hand. This is how we are all connected. So when I know, so the practice which really helped me to develop a certain understanding is that I see the other person as not different from me. Only then I can love my neighbor, because I know that I and my neighbor are different, and the self-love is the greatest. So when you see yourself in others, your love for them is also greatest. That's the beauty of Bhagavad Gītā. It is the Indian philosophy. There is no sin, as I said. There is only a metaphysical error, only ignorance. We are just ignorant about our true nature. When I know my true nature, when I know that what I am actually seeking is what I am, there is a certain assurance that, that nothing can go wrong. No matter what route I'm taking, I'm going home. That assurance gives you that peace of mind. So like that duck, it seems to be kind of pedaling, but underneath, is very calm, So that's the understanding that you are engaged, fully engaged in the world, but internally you're anchored. You know that, that over there, nothing can go wrong, because that's the reason when Socrates was drinking hemlock, he said, a good person cannot be harmed in life or in death. What a statement. What a statement. How can he come up that observation? A good person cannot be harmed. He was harmed. I mean, those people made him drink poison for something he didn't do. No crime. How did he say that? A good person cannot be harmed, because the harm only comes from inside. And a good person has full control over that. Your soul, your body can be harmed from outside, but your soul cannot be harmed. Your soul will be harmed when you give assent to it. If somebody asks you to do something that you don't believe in, if you give permission to do that, then your soul is harmed. It's in your form. That's how Socrates said a good person cannot be harmed in life and in death. The beauty of this whole thing, the question is very beautiful. I feel like a little bit improvising it. The beauty of this whole thing is, the idea is not that you become a person of certain integrity where you always choose the right. Socrates says that's not the idea. The idea is that you don't have an option. You don't even have an option between right and wrong. You come to a point. There's no option. You can only do right. It's like you go to a bank and then somebody goes to a bank and finds a wallet on the floor, picks it up, and immediately goes to the manager and says, I found the wallet, somebody left it, so I am bringing it to you. Didn't even question about it, because this man knows that, this doesn't belong to me, so I need to return it. But there's another person who looks at it, he opens it, he's tempted. And then he notices there are video cameras. He goes back and returns the wallet. In both cases, the wallet is returned. But the quality of action is different. In the first case, the person have no choice but to return it. In the second case, the person had choice to keep it or return it. Socrates says we need to develop to a point where we don't have the choice, but just to do right, not choose between right and wrong. That's the point. That's the question.
So we have one question from Becky. It says, our educational system today is geared towards outcomes. How do you see result of this practice in the workplace?
Sure. You see, the caveat is that when we say you become process oriented, not outcome oriented, it doesn't mean outcomes get messed up or outcome gets ignored. You are becoming irresponsible towards outcome. When you focus on process, which is totally in your control, then if you really do a good job, the outcomes will take care of itself. As Gandhi said, throw the stone in the ocean and let the waves take care of the outcome. But that our part is to do the right thing for the right reason, doing the right thing for right reason, not for wrong reason. And then outcome, there may be a delay, and delay is not denial, but sooner or later the outcome will be good. There is no way that a good action will lead to bad results. That's what Bhagavad Gītā gives the guarantee. But that's something that you have to try and prove in your own life.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here and sharing so much wisdom with us. Do you have any final comments that you would like to leave us with?
Well, we will do a prayer together. I would ask everyone to unmute their mic and say that prayer, and that will be our interfaith prayer today.
I love it.
And you don't have to change your religion to say that prayer. So, so I would invite everyone to unmute themselves, their mics, and say after me. And I want to hear all of that. And I will speak slowly. Let's do all the good we can. Yes.
Let's do all
the good we can.
Let me repeat. Let's do all the good we can.
Let's do
all the good we can.
To all the people we can.
To all the people.
All the people we can.
In all the ways we can.
In all the ways we can.
As long as we can.
As long as we can.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you all for being here. If you would like to visit our website, we have a few programs coming up, including tonight at the center. We will have the Bhakti Yoga Club at Miami University. We'll be leading a kirtan, which is a musical meditation. We would love to have you. If you would like to come by, we'll have a good vegetarian meal and practice some chanting and music meditation together. Dr. Dhiman, have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for being here and sharing this time with us. And we hope to see you again soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.